I watched Echo. Was it great? Did it suck? Let's jump in.
Bing bong!
First huge positive about this series, right off the bat, representation. Representation is super important. It was great to see representation for indigenous people and deaf people. I cannot believe how many times a character is deaf in a show or a movie and the actor isn't. Feels like there's probably plenty of phenomenal deaf actors out there, so it was nice to see one of them actually get a chance to shine in this show. Other huge positive, Vincent D'Onofrio. Phenomenal actor. Maybe I'm just a Vincent D'Onofrio superfan. I don't really know anymore, but every single scene he's in this show takes the show to a way higher high than it has when he's not in the scenes, and I just loved everything about his inclusion in the series. And that's most of the positives. Now, I don't want this to sound as if the show is a total dumpster fire or it's terrible. It's not. I think it's fine. If you watch it and you love it, great. If you don't watch it and you skip it, you're not really missing anything. To be fair, that's part of the point of these Marvel Spotlight projects. These are projects where you're not really supposed to have done any homework, seen any shows or movies, or know who anyone is. Except that in this show, the main character is somebody who was already in another show. The main villain is was in the other show that Echo was in, and then was in a show before that. So the Spotlight part, I don't really know if that works necessarily with this project. To be fair, I think most Marvel fans probably know who Kingpin is, so he's a safe inclusion in a project like this. Now, it's also worth noting this is one of Marvel's first TV MA television shows. I think it's the first one. Deadpool's probably gonna be the first movie. But going into it, I kind of was curious, is this really like TVMA or is this Disney MA? And sorry to report, it seems very obvious that Disney had their hands and fingerprints all over this project. There is no way that you would give the show that rating and then like nobody curses. Like no one says fuck like a single time, unless I missed it. In which case, like, you're supposed to get one even if it's PG-13. But there were so many opportunities for someone to say fuck, and like, it never happened. It was super, like, it was weird. It was to the point where it was like, why are you not saying it? I mean, they said bullshit, and they said damn it, and like, that was it. I'm like, what? This is so bizarre. Going into this show, there was also a lot of talk of the fight scenes. The Daredevil TV show was famous for its incredibly well choreographed and shot fight scenes. And this show is sort of doing that. I mean, off the top of my head, even though I literally just watched it, I could only name you like 2 big fight scenes in a 5-episode show, and they kind of gave away one of them in the first trailer or like the first teaser for the show. So that part was a little bit strange. And I think overall, I'm just sort of coming out of this show feeling like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. It felt like there was some sort of either idea that this should have been a movie, or this should have been, like, it's a 5-episode show, so it's short. It's the shortest MCU show so far, and the episodes are like barely over 30 minutes because the credits are like 8 minutes long. It's like the WandaVision show where the credits were like half of the entire runtime of the show. The fight scenes that we do get are pretty good. They're not Daredevil good, but again, this is not Daredevil. This show is not being made by the people who made Daredevil, so don't go in expecting Daredevil quality fight scenes. I think for what we do get, they're all right. You know, they're violent, but it sort of feels like they were forced to make them violent. I don't know, that's what's weird. It's like the show is TVMA, but the violence isn't even like that great. I know that probably sounds strange, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we're coming off of, you know, movies like John Wick, and even just dating back to the Netflix series themselves had great fight choreography and great action sequences in most of those shows, at least the ones that were about action. And we don't really get much of that. Like, this show is torn between, is it an Echo origin story, which it definitely is, or is it a show about the relationship between Kingpin and the girl he feels like he's a father to, which it sort of is. And I'm gonna be totally honest, the Kingpin one is way more interesting, and unfortunately that's the part of the show that they spend way less time on. This is 80% an Echo origin story and like 20% Kingpin and Echo. There are very few scenes with them together in general, just on the screen at the same time. There are even fewer scenes about their history. I mean, because it's a Marvel Spotlight project, you're not supposed to know anything else going into this show. So whoever made the decision to like include hardly any scenes depicting their relationship in the past when Echo was a little girl, bizarre choice. Very bizarre choice. I don't know if this was a budget thing. Maybe Vincent D'Onofrio is just way more expensive than I think he is, which it's probably true because he's a really great actor and he should ask for a lot of money in anything. But it hurts the show that this relationship is like not explored that much. By the end of the show, it feels like I'm being told that I'm supposed to feel like there's some big emotional investment here between these two characters that have a long history, like decades long history, but we don't see it, like at least not that much. And that makes it hard to get that invested in the show. I will say, they do say the name of the show in the show, which instantly, I mean, you got to add on at least 3 or 4 points to the final score, right? Because that is just huge. After the show wrapped up, kind of left with this feeling of like, do I care if they ever bring this character back, like in any capacity? And no, not really, which I think is fine because it's a miniseries. This show was never presented as if this was like the first time we're going to see her and then she'll be back in a movie. It also wasn't the first time we saw her. She was in Hawkeye, which I didn't watch. I guess she was like kind of doing stuff in that show. I don't know. I really don't. If they bring Echo back in something, great. But you also can't really do that because the only people who are going to know who she is are either really big Hawkeye fans or really big Vincent D'Onofrio fans, or they saw Daredevil in the teaser for the show and they tuned in thinking he was going to be in way more of it, which, spoilers, whatever you saw, that's it. Now, I will say, to curb some of this negativity, it is cool to see Marvel kind of taking a chance on something different, although I also feel like I'm sort of giving them too much credit because the bar is so low for them to do anything original and like slightly outside of the usual formula. But this one feels very Disney-fied. Like, this feels like if Marvel had more control over what they were doing, this show would have deviated even more from what it ended up being. But it feels very much like Disney was on set all day. Disney reps looking over the shoulder, making sure that everything in the show is something that they approved of. And that part, I hate to say, held the show back. It is fun, sort of. But, I don't think it's like that important. I think if you're a diehard Marvel fan, you can skip it, which I know you probably won't if you're diehard. But, I think this is probably the last MCU show for me for a bit until season 3 of What If, because that show is awesome. As far as the live action stuff, I think I'm done for a while. So, I don't know. Check out Echo or don't. It's like probably fine either way. It's like if you watch it, you'll probably like it enough to stick with it. And if you don't watch it, probably not going to matter because I'd be surprised if she shows up in anything for a while. Because like Shang-Chi's movie came out like 3 years ago. We haven't heard anything about it. So I wouldn't hold your breath on seeing this character ever again. But hey, who knows? Daredevil TV show's coming up, so maybe that'll do something. I don't know. I'm just some guy on the internet.